What's going on, Browns fans? Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. Coming up on today's show, we're going to check out some draft targets for the Browns. Did a video about this almost a month ago. Did very well, and so clearly there's enough interest to do another one here. And we switched up the names, of course, as the Senior Bowl is in the books now. And honestly, I just flip-flop in my mind all the time about some of these prospects. So we'll look at the four biggest needs for the Browns in the draft here. We'll check out the wide receivers, some defensive linemen, some edge rushers, and then we'll wrap up the show by looking at some under-the-radar and sleepers kind of guys that maybe the Browns could snag in rounds 2 or 3, so all that coming your way. First, though, if you want a shout-out on the show, then make sure you subscribe if you have not subscribed already, and then comment me. And on the next Browns Report, I'll give a shout-out to everyone who commented me. If you are already subscribed, don't worry. I'm going to give some love to you guys as well at the tail end of the show. So make sure you stay tuned for that because we're going to be giving some shout-outs to some recent subscribers. First things first, let's check out the wide receiver draft targets. I've got them ranked in my preference order of who I like the most. Garrett Wilson, barely above Jameson Williams. I go back and forth on these two, and I'll elaborate more on them in a moment. But I've got Wilson at number 1 for now, Williams at number 2. Treylon Burks has really impressed me. I've seen a lot of you guys commenting to look at him, so that's what I've done. I've watched more Treylon Burks highlights, and I am falling more and more in love with the guy. Then Drake London comes in at number 4. If London doesn't tear his ankle at the end of October and early November, maybe he's higher on this list, but he kind of faded out of memory, so for the time being, I've got him at number 4, but he's a great, huge slot target that can be moved across the line of scrimmage. Let's hone in on number 1 and number 2, though. That's Jameson Williams and Garrett Wilson. I go back and forth on these two guys. I think Wilson is just a little bit more of a polished wide receiver. He just got a deeper arsenal. While, don't get me wrong, Jameson Williams is awesome, and there's 1,500 yards that say so, and 15 touchdowns that go along with it. But I like Wilson's route tree a little bit more. He's got better hands, and they've both got great hands. We're looking at marginal differences between these two. So if someone tells you Williams is so much better at this than Wilson or vice versa, don't read into that too much. They're both freak athletes, and they both could be stud wide receivers where you can't go wrong with either one. That's a real possibility. Don't lose sight of that. Just because one may be better than the other doesn't mean that you're going to go wrong with the other guy. A lot of it comes down to the situation and the quarterback they get drafted to. So for now, I just barely lean Wilson, but good chance next week I'm back on the Williams train because I was on that train like a week ago. All right, who is your favorite wide receiver in this draft class, though? I'll show you 4 more names in a moment that maybe the Browns go after in round number 2, but I'm guessing it's one of those 4 guys. But let me know who your favorite wide receiver is in this draft class down below. This is my second tier of wide receivers, barely falling off the previous tier. Chris Olave, I like Olave a lot. I just don't know if he... these are great receivers, so I'm not going to even be critical on them. Jahan Dotson, the thing with Dotson is, we were talking about this at the office here at Chat Sports. Look at some recent Penn State wide receivers that have blossomed in the NFL, like Allen Robinson and Chris Godwin. Kind of makes you wonder if Jahan Dotson has a better quarterback, if he's a bigger name than he is right now in the draft class. So don't sleep on Jahan Dotson too much. David Bell out of Purdue, watched his highlights, watched him pretty much all year at Purdue. The thing with Bell is he can be lined up in a variety of spots, really best after the catch. He's one of those wide receiver screens. Can turn a 3-yard reception into a 35-yard reception. And on the other end of the spectrum, very different receiver in Jalen Tolbert, who is one of the best deep threat receivers in this draft class. The reason why I've got him towards the tail end of this is I don't know how well that fits for what the Browns are doing right now. That may be a better receiver for a more established veteran quarterback. Meanwhile, for Baker Mayfield, I'd rather get him someone like David Bell who he can just dump it off to and watch Bell do all the work after that. Whereas Tolbert, he's more of your deep threat guy who loves to go up and get it. He's got great speed. He works better on the outside. Bell, more where the direction of the NFL is going on the inside. But just like Olave too, I'd be fine. Just like Olave where you can line him up inside. He's great on reverses. He can be used in a variety of packages. So the point I want to make, though, is I'd be fine with drafting 2 wide receivers, meaning take one in round 1, take another one in round 2. The Browns have a huge need at wide receiver, especially if they don't bring Jarvis Landry back for his final year of his contract. They need a big punch at wide receiver, especially if they don't sign someone in free agency. So I have no qualms, no issue with the Browns drafting a wide receiver in round 1 and then doing it again in round 2. We'll check out more draft prospects in a moment, but BetUS is our proud sportsbook partner today. Head on over to chatsports.com/bet. Put the promo code Browns125 in, and you're going to get a 125% deposit bonus. What do you want to bet on? How about the frickin' Super Bowl, all right? Rams, 4-point favorites, over-under set at 48.5. I've said it before this week. I like Bengals +4. I think it's a lot of points in the Super Bowl. And I kind of like the under. Decent chance by kickoff I will have completely flip-flopped and gone Rams -4 and actually the over. But I like the Bengals with the points, and I like the under. Whatever you like, make your picks over at BetUS. Get hooked up when you go to chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Browns125. Moving on to the interior defensive line. This is a big need for the Browns, especially if neither Malik comes back, whether that's Malik Jackson or Malik McDowell. And I don't like the backups there. Togiai just didn't see enough from him this year to be confident in him being a starting defensive lineman. So Jordan Davis out of Georgia, the biggest name right here. I don't think the Browns get him at number 13, and I don't see him falling to the Browns in the second round. Meanwhile, the other 4 names, very much in contention to be picked in the second round by the Browns. Devontae Wyatt was just kind of the Robin to Jordan Davis, but still a great run stopper. Travis Jones is a name to keep an eye on because the thing with Jones is he played at UConn, and hand up, I didn't watch much UConn football this year, but he can do a lot of things, not only in the run stopping, but also in pass rushing. So keep an eye on Travis Jones. He'll be a name to monitor throughout the draft process. Logan Hall at Houston, also a rising name and also a guy that you can spread around the defensive line. And then finally, Perion Winfrey. He was great at the Senior Bowl, had a couple sacks in the Senior Bowl. The only thing with him, and the reason why I have him ranked number 5, is for a defensive lineman, he's actually not the best at run stopping. He leans a little more towards the pass rush. And if the Browns address the pass rush in free agency or elsewhere in the draft, I don't know how much of a need Perion Winfrey is, but I think Perion Winfrey is going to be a great player in the NFL. Here's my stance, though, on interior defensive line. I think they could only impact a team so much. And so, are they worth a second-round pick? Like, for example, Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame, a lot of people see him going top 5. My kind of spin on it is a safety really going to make a big enough impact to draft someone top 5? Like Jamal Adams went to the Jets, and he's a great safety for them, but they were still losing. And so I wonder if interior defensive line is kind of the last piece of the puzzle, and the Browns have other pieces to fill right now. So maybe they pause on D-line for second round and look at the third round to fill that void. So that's kind of my take on interior defensive linemen when it comes to the draft. Speaking of positions, though, what position do you think the Browns should go out and draft in round number 1? I'm all in on wide receiver. If you want a quarterback, I won't hate you for that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm putting a wide receiver, though, for myself. Let me know what you comment down below, and we'll have a friendly debate in the YouTube comments because that never gets out of control. Moving on to edge rushers now. This is a tough need just because if the Browns re-sign Clowney, none of these guys I think will be drafted by the Browns. All these guys are going to go in either rounds 1, 2, maybe 3. And if the Browns re-sign Clowney, between Clowney and Garrett, they have bigger needs to fill in the first 3 rounds of the draft. So let's go through these names, though. George Karlaftis out of Purdue. I don't think him or Ojabo will fall in the second round. So the only way I see them on the Browns is if Cleveland falls in love with these guys so much they take him at number 13. But both guys are great athletes and great prospects and are awesome at rushing the football. Then we get to the back half here. Jermaine Johnson, Cameron Thomas, and Arnold Ebiketie. These are 3 names to monitor for the Browns in the second round because those are more realistic gets for Cleveland in round number 2, and all of them have a different kind of arsenal and strength. And we look at the stats here for these guys in 2021. Jermaine Johnson is my favorite of the bunch. He's got 12 sacks, but he's also a very good run stopper. He kind of looks like just a younger, better, what Jadeveon Clowney was supposed to be, which is a great pass rusher, but also very good in the run game. Cameron Thomas coming out of San Diego State. I like him a lot. Really good in terms of athleticism, meaning if you find yourself as a defensive end in a screen, he can chase down the running back and get him after the catch and beyond the first down marker. He will run with the play. And then finally, Arnold Ebiketie. The thing with Arnold is, I like the name, but two, he is a very, very fast defensive end. And what does that mean necessarily? He wants to beat his guy with speed, but he's also got some punch too. So he's not just a one-trick pony. He can beat his tackle by beating him to a spot around the edge, but he can also bull rush him and spin inside. So those are the stats for those guys. I could see any of those three players being taken by the Browns in round number 2, especially if Cleveland does not get Jadeveon Clowney back. The Browns, though, are in a great spot for this draft because the two biggest spots of depth in this upcoming draft, in my opinion, is wide receiver. It's loaded at wide receiver, and defensive end, edge rushers. And those are the Browns' two biggest needs probably. Absolutely wide receiver. So if the Browns don't go wide receiver in round number 1, there are a lot of great players they can get in round number 2. And there is a lot of depth at edge rusher. So I'm very excited for this draft for the Browns. And as Browns fans, we should all be excited because if they don't get their number 1 guy in round number 1 or round number 2, there's so much depth at wide receiver and defensive end / edge, they can find an excellent replacement not long after. Wrapping up the show quickly, under the radar / sleepers here. These are guys that they're not necessarily deep sleepers, meaning you'll get them in the 5th or day 3 really, but just names to keep an eye on as they kind of may pick up some more traction as the draft process picks up. Khalil Shakir, the wide receiver out of Boise State. He is a fun wide receiver to watch because he's great over the middle. He's also got some excellent outside speed, and he is phenomenal in the slot, and that's kind of the direction the NFL is going. They love slot receivers. Look at Cooper Kupp, just like Calvin Austin, Lewis Sine, safety out of Georgia. Browns love to run 3 safety sets, and if they don't re-sign Ronnie Harrison, they will have a void to fill right there. Maybe that's Lewis Sine. And then Cade Mays, a tackle out of Tennessee. I put him on there just because Jack Conklin's injury has made a slight need at tackle / I'd like to probably see an improvement at that number 6 / swing tackle spot. Maybe the Browns and Andrew Berry want to improve that spot by drafting Cade Mays. So 4 sleepers to keep an eye on just as the draft process heats up more and more. All right, let's wrap up the show by giving some love to some recent subscribers. You guys have all subscribed in the last couple of days. So Dakota308, Terrence Gones, BI99 Mock 330, Mook 330, the Matafo. You guys are very interesting in your names. This name, I'm not going to even try and tackle the second half. This is like substitute teacher Key and Peele. So we're just going to call you Melvin Casey. That's your name now. And then other 5 subscribers who have recently joined the channel: Walter Newbert, JG, John Maconda, Jay Mays, and Marvin Wright. Appreciate all of you guys that have joined the channel. And if you have not already, you got to subscribe if you want to get a shout out on the show. So hit that big red button and join us here at the Cleveland Browns Report.